position that the Congress politics must be brought back into this country in 1979 the reformation of the Congress of South African Students, which, as I said earlier on, unbent even the Freedom Charter, Comrade Voter was there. When the young lions of our time raise up their hands and say, freedom or death, victory is certain, we are indeed going to run this apartheid government ungovernable for the sake of our freedom. He was there. When we started the entire process of reconstruction and building our country, with all of these conferences that happened within the African National Congress, the challenges that happened within the ANC itself, the challenges that happened within the Youth League and so on, he was there. So in a sense, when all is said and done, and some of the comrades are to account, his name will be called to come in account as to why the African National Congress today finds itself in a crossroad. So he is joining you. He is part of you, Comrade SG. Masimazi ukuthi wayinhlangano ifike la ikhona ngaye kufanele ukuthi aphendule. So presenting to you, Comrade, the Secretary General of the African National Congress, Comrade Voter April Balola. Thank you, comrades. Thank you very much. Comrades, like it has been said, it's been a long time that you have been waiting. We started at the grave site of Comrade Solomon Mahlangu. We just finished now laying the wreath at the grave site. Thank you, program directors, members of the Mahlangu family present here today, members of the National Executive Committee present, Umam Nkosazana, Dlamini Zuma, and together with Poli Bushelo, they were not at the gravesite with us. I wish to acknowledge them who are here with us today. Of course, we have other members of the NEC who were with from where we started. Members of the ANC Youth League present here, Royal. Members of the Gauteng Provincial Task Team present here. Members of the Tshwane Regional Executive Committee. I don't know where is Comrade Bonzo Modise, the regional chairperson, together with the regional secretary, Comrade George Machila, and the deputy chairperson, Comrade Kanki, is also present here. And all members of the regional executive committee. We don't have a task team, we have an REC.
uh, leaders of the Alliance, the South African Communist Party, and the Congress of South African Trade Unions, distinguished guests, veterans of the liberation struggle, comrades, and compatriots. Comrade, today, Solomon Kalushi Mahlangu, a true revolutionary whose life was brief, but whose courage was immeasurable. At just 22 years old, he stood firm in the face of apartheid injustice, embodying the spirit of resistance that defined a generation. His immortal words, I quote, "My blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom," continue to echo across time, reminding us that freedom was not given. It was earned through sacrifice. And in this instance, what we refer to as the ultimate sacrifice. Solomon Mahlangu, comrades, had a choice to live. When apartheid regime said to him, "We will give you clemency," he said and answered, "Mama, tell my people that I love them. And my blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom." Solomon Mahlangu, comrades, left comfort and sacrificed with his life for us to be free. Mahlangu was part of a movement led by President Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, Heaven Becky Krisani, Mama Winnie Mandela, Sophie Brain, Nelson Mandela, and many more stalwarts of the struggle for freedom and committed to justice, equality, and human dignity for all. The ANC, comrades, was not merely an organization. It was a moral force, a disciplined liberation movement that carried the hopes of millions. It is this legacy that we reflect upon today, not only with pride, but with honesty. People joined the movement not for material gain, but because they associated themselves with its historic mission to liberate all our people from the bondage, to liberate all our people from colonial and apartheid bondage. As we honor his life, we must also reflect on the state of our movement and our country. The ANC, the very organization for which Mahlangu gave his life, faces profound challenges. We meet at a time, comrades, when the trust between the people and the movement has been diminished across many communities, particularly at the level of local government. Our people are confronted with failing services, unemployment, inequality, and growing sense of disillusionment. The very institutions that were meant to advance freedom are in some instances seen as distant, ineffective, or even compromised. This reality demands not defensiveness, but decisive action. Comrades, we hear of many activities of corruption, some of which have got nothing to do with the ANC. People steal money in the civil service. Abafetsa utswa tšhelete ho thwe ke batho ba ANC. Rona le magodu a tshwarwe. civil servants who are stealing money from the poor are not sent by the ANC. But there are others, as we discover corruption on daily basis, are verbosing, bapita lintswe, bapita lintswe na ore eki ANC. Maloba mo I'm sure go Bottas down, go Eastern Cape, bantu baba baluna ni tsibi luri, Bottas down, ikoka, again, to bapisa building mo. Daluna isn't allowed to give a conto is after the meeting. So we are now. We are with the comrades. We're at the great site. And this morning, they've also just arrived. I was making a point and an example to you, comrades. Borders down building in the Eastern Cape. I'm sorry you saw it catching flames. Abafeta bare not the ANC. Everyone, limakhodu. Liyabutswa lekhodu kapa uthi aki ANC. ANC ayakumabathi. Butswa. We have even tightened our own resolutions. Rietsa linto eseng molaotheo or constitution or umgaqosiseko wa country. The law of the land says if you are arrested, you are presumed innocent till proven guilty. ANC iri ha o tshwariwa o le leloko la ANC emela ko thoko. Ke mang o etsang ntho mo South Africa? A teng ke ANC fela. Our own comrades, we love, we grew up with in the struggle, they are not with us today because they are facing serious charges of corruption. Comrades, we must march on and strengthen these institutions. We must be decisive. Amilcar Cabral famously declared, hide nothing from the masses of our people, tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told, mask no difficulties, mistakes and failures. Take no easy victories. Indeed, comrades, it will add nothing to the cause of liberating our people from racial, gender, and class inequality if we mask the difficulties we encounter. Equally, we must not let those opposed to national transformation to be the one who tell our story. We are the first to acknowledge that there are indeed difficulties. Hence, National Conference resolved on the agenda of organizational renewal, to which we are committed to. Similarly, we convened the largest gathering ever of ANC councillors in what we called the roll call to give them marching orders on the same issues that I have raised with regards to service delivery. However, comrades, it will be injustice to the course of history if we do not mention that despite all the challenges encountered, the South Africa is much better than what it was in 1994. In many respects, in 1994, comrades, everyone need households with access to electricity were between 50 and 54%. But today it is approximately 94%. More mamilodimo. Nelisina mutlakasi. ANC kintse mutlakasi ukinyana komkhukhu. But ba tobetsa fela tlhaka. motlakase. Those who don't love us and want us gone, they say we did nothing in this country. A person who speaks like that doesn't know apartheid in 1994. He doesn't know apartheid in 1994. He doesn't know the difference. He has never lived under apartheid. He has never gone to school to be fed gutter education, which was Bantu education. You know, about from four. Comrades, load shedding is a new concept. Back then, we will just say electricity is gone, and all the townships will be engulfed in coal smoke, as the majority relied on coal for heating and cooking. Of course, with greater number of electricity users, we have to increase electricity supply, which is what government must be seized with on an ongoing basis. The truth is that, comrades, today there is greater access to electricity, healthcare, higher education studies, social grants for children and the elderly every month, scholar transport, water and housing, amongst many government interventions measures. These have contributed to improve livelihoods. We say we must not tell lies because there are challenges, particularly on the economic transformation. The economy is not growing as it should because it is owned by a few and therefore not diversified enough to enable greater economic participation and job creation. This is why the economic want to accelerate not just economic growth, but also diversification in terms of both ownership and economic sectors. We must no longer export raw materials. We must beneficiate here inside the country. And many things have been moving slow. We must create factories. We talk about industrialization so that our people can get jobs. Not everyone wants to live on social grants, but social grants are necessary intervention by the ANC government. We are social security in the African continent like nobody has ever seen it before. Yeah, in South Africa, for the poorest of the poor. And then we run the biggest intervention social transformation program. Equality. Today, 1652, that is 16th April, they hand to Solomon Mahlangu on the 6th of April, 79. He was 22 years old. Today, on Teres Kanyilang, Bangena Apeswe, they colonized us. And we fought, and because of Solomon Mahlangu, we were liberated. We're living in a free South Africa. Of course, in a free South Africa, that is unequal. How can better see la fela mo? Watomoma Milodi, Wayamo, Victoria, Mo Toropo. You'll see a big difference. Townships were dumping sites by apartheid. And they say we must not talk about apartheid. If we were equal, there will never be a suburb and a township. We will all be equal. This misery, a particular system brought it to our people. And the ANC every day is fighting to reverse that. Comrades, when we gave our people electricity in 1994, South Africa was less than 30 million people. Today we are 60 million. every day. And we must ensure that we deliver, we create and build pollution facilities, roads, electricity for those people who are opening new areas of living in our country. And this African National Congress carries the momentum of liberating our people. Let me tell you about another political party. The people of Soweto were owing ESCOM billions of rands, electricity. They were not paying services. Another political party came into power. I don't want to mention it by name. They told the people of Soweto, we are not ANC, you are going to pay, like it or not. You know why they told the people of Soweto? It's because their constituency did not have problems. They didn't care about the township called Soweto. They told the people of Soweto when they came into power in Johannesburg, for the first time the ANC lost power, they told the people of Soweto, nizobhatala nifuna ningafuni. And that now shows you this vehicle called the African National Congress, why it is important for it to be protected. Because others who come into power wouldn't even care about you. They say we must do away with affirmative action. How can we do away with affirmative action when risalika? M17 asilinga, kwindawo nendawo asilingani. Abafazi bebevalele ngaphandle. For the first time, the ANC yothetha ngolingalingana komntu womfazi namadoda emsebenzini. Safaka i-50-50. Bathi 50-50. Ingoma kaMdu. Bathi 50-50 noMandoza. Sayithatha thina 50-50 sayifaka nalapha embuthweni. Ko-parlamenteni kwa ka-GNU. When we asked them to give us ministers, they gave us only men. It's only the ANC that contributed women within cabinet. Comrades, to honor Mahlangu is not simply to remember him. It is to emulate his courage. It is to confront uncomfortable truths and to act boldly in the interest of our people. We must exercise decisive and make the promise of a better life a reality for our people. As we have memory, we do so to count history, but to drop the sacrifice. The fire to confront the challenges of our time, to fix local government, transform our economy, and build peace on the cycle that those get for us and visions when they lay down their lives. There are moments in life when the individual capture the spirit of an entire people struggle. Solomon had done his life was one such story. Solomon was born the 10th of July 1996, Pretoria. Mahlangu came of age in an era of brutal oppression, a time when the apartheid sought to crush the aspirations of millions of comrades by choosing action over apathy, resistance over resignation. And in doing so, he became one of the most powerful symbols of liberation movement. A young man whose courage was matched only by his clarity of purpose. Today, as we confront a South Africa still grappling with the legacy of inequality, with municipalities failing in their primary task of transforming the lives of the masses of our people for the better, with an economy that continues to benefit the minority, leaving behind millions of our people. The question before us is not whether Solomon's sacrifice was worth it. The question is whether we are worthy of it. Whether we, the beneficiaries of freedom, possess the same decisiveness, the same selflessness, the same unwavering commitment to the people that defined Solomon Mahlangu's short but extraordinary life. Solomon Kalushi Mahlangu was the second of three sons, born to Martha Mahlangu in this very township east of Pretoria. His was by the daily indignities of apartheid, inferior education under the Bantu education system, the humiliation of past laws, the poverty engineered by system designed to extract black labor while denying black humanity. Like many young people of his generation, Solomon Mahlangu attended school in conditions that were deliberately designed to produce a subordinate class of workers. The apartheid regime's architect of education, Hendrik Verwoerd, had infamous there was no place for the in European society apart certain forms of labor. It was this very system, this calculated assault on the minds of the futures of black children that produced the generation of 1976. This year we mark the 50th anniversary of the Soweto uprising of 1976, June 16, which was the spark that set ablaze the consciousness of an entire. When Hector Peterson fell to police bullets and thousands of students across the country rose in defiance, Solomon Mahlangu was among those who heard the call of history. He understood with the clarity that comes only to those who have suffered injustice firsthand that petitions and patience had reached their limit. The time for decisive action had come. Comrades, in the aftermath of uprising, Solomon Mahlangu, like thousands of other young South Africans, to join Umkhonto weSizwe, the armed wing of the Congress. He underwent military training in Angola and Mozambique, preparing himself for the ultimate sacrifice in the service of his people's freedom. In June 1977, Solomon Mahlangu returned to South Africa as a trained operative, part of a mission to advance the armed struggle against the apartheid state. On the 13th of June 1977, during an incident in Johannesburg, John Foster Square area, a confrontation with security forces resulted in the death of two civilians. Solomon Mahlangu was arrested alongside his comrade, Mondi Johannes Mutlou. Mutlou was found unfit to stand trial due to brain damage sustained during his arrest. The apartheid regime, comrades, however, needed a scapegoat, a symbol to terrorize other young black South Africans into submission. Solomon Mahlangu was charged under the Terrorism Act and sentenced to death. Despite compelling evidence that he had not fired the fatal shot, his trial was a travesty of justice, a political prosecution designed to send a message to the liberation movement and to the youth of South Africa: resist and you will die. The international community rallied to save Solomon Mahlangu. The United Nations, the Organization of African Unity, OAU, governments across the world, and solidarity movements on every continent called for clemency. But the apartheid regime, deaf to the voice of humanity, proceeded with its murderous intent. On the 6th of April, 1999, 47 years ago, Solomon Mahlangu would have been much older to the day. At the age of 22, Solomon Kalushi Mahlangu was executed by hanging at the Pretoria Central Prison. His last words, spoken with a dignity that shamed his executioners, have become one of the most powerful declarations in the history of the South African liberation struggle. My blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom. Mama, tell my people that I love them. They must continue the fight. These were not the words. These were not the words of a defeated combatant. They were the words of a revolutionary, a young man who saw beyond the gallows, beyond the cruelty of his executioners, to a future South Africa that will be free, just and equal. A South Africa that came to pass in 1994. And we are still building, comrades, today. The leadership of the ANC understood, perhaps better than anyone, the magnitude of Solomon Mahlangu's sacrifice and what it represented for the struggle. President Oliver Tambo, a man who held the liberation movement together through its darkest hours, spoke with characteristic eloquence about the meaning of Mahlangu's life and death when he said, I quote, "The blood of the martyrs waters the revolution. Solomon Mahlangu did not die in vain. His sacrifice is a clarion call to every South African, yeah, to intensify the struggle until victory is won. He represents the finest qualities of our youth: courage, selflessness, and an unshakable commitment to freedom." This is President General Oliver Tambo. President Tambo further reflected on youth's role in the struggle, saying, "The youth of our country are its most vital assets. They carry within them the seeds of the future we are fighting for." Solomon Mahlangu embodied that truth. He chose to give everything, his youth, his dreams, his very life, so that others might live in freedom. President Nelson Mandela, writing from the confines of Robben Island, where he had already spent over 15 years as a political prisoner, expressed the profound impact of Mahlangu's execution on the movement. President Mandela later reflected, I quote him, "There is no greater glory than to give one's life for the freedom of one's people." Solomon Mahlangu was a hero in every sense of the word. His courage in the face of death inspired not only those of us who were in prison, but millions of South Africans and people of goodwill around the world. He reminded us that the spirit of resistance cannot be killed, that even the gallows cannot silence the cry for justice. Close quote. Mandela also spoke to the enduring relevance of such sacrifices when he said, "For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others." Solomon Mahlangu, comrades, lived and died by his principle. He did not seek freedom for himself alone. He sought it for all. For the worker in the mine, the mother in the township, the child denied an education, the elder denied dignity. These words from President Tambo and President Mandela reminded us that Solomon Mahlangu was not an isolated hero. He was the product of a movement, the ANC, that for over a century has been the vehicle of the people's aspirations. His sacrifice drew its meaning from collective struggle. Comrades, as I move to conclusion, I want to assure you, comrades, that our struggle is not over. And today, as we commemorate the life of Solomon Mahlangu, he speaks to us from the grave. Comrades, Let me return to the words that echo across the decades, from the gallows of Pretoria Central Prison to this gathering today. My blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom. Mama, tell my people that I love them. They must continue the fight. The tree still stands, comrades. It has been battered by storms, some external, many of our own making. Its branches have been weakened by neglect, its roots threatened by the termites of corruption and complacency. But it stands and it can bear fruit again. Fruit that every South African can taste. Solomon Mahlangu died for an ANC of the people, a movement that draws its strength from service, its legitimacy from delivery, and its future from the unwavering commitment to a better life for all. Let us live here today with resolve. Let us honor Mahlangu not with a renewed commitment to transformation of our movement, our government, our economy, and ourselves. Let us be the generation that finally makes a better life for all, not a campaign promise, but a lived reality for every man, woman, and child in this land that our heroes paid for with their blood. As I conclude, I'm certain that if Solomon Kalushu Mahlangu was here with us in 2026, he would have been in the forefront of the People's March in defense of our national sovereignty. He would have been amongst the first to declare that we will not be bullied, on whom to associate with globally. In doing so, he would have echoed President Nelson Mandela when he asserted that determined by our own national interests and not the national interests of other countries. We take this opportunity to thank all those who heeded the call to march in defense of our national sovereignty. Among others, we sought to highlight the fact that national development policies are linked to the provisions of the global environment. Some of you, comrades, would know that we were forced not to import cheaper oil from Iran simply because that did not serve US interests, as opposed to our own national interests. This revolution is not going to be led by cowards. It needs men and women of stature and courage. Comrades, we will continue to be in solidarity with the people of Cuba, Western Sahara, Palestine, and Eswatini, amongst many acts of international solidarity. We will not look away when injustice is being done anywhere in the world. We were taught by President Mandela that our freedom will remain incomplete until the Palestinians are free. This is the spirit of Solomon Kalushi Mahlangu, a fighter to the end. The struggle continues, comrades. The renewal has begun. And Solomon Kalushi Mahlangu, young, brave, and eternal, lights the way. Tell the people we love them. Tell them we will continue the fight for liberation. Amanda! Awatu! Aduta! Thank
Amanda, Amanda. No, you can come. Members of the Umkondo Wesizwe, all veterans, yeah. Hey, Msholo, Chaka Chaka, Yeah, comrades, we can sing along. Remember, Comrade Kalushi Mahlangu was a member of the MK. So the comrades have requested to let me speak. What about one? Eh? But we don't hear them. Eh? But we don't. Eh? Oh, what was up? Hey. Eh? What can go, man? What is it that you don't want? Yeah. Yeah. Comrades, le perform mo. Baye tabali. Baye tabiang so. Tabiang.